John Baird, the Foreign Minister, making a statement today. You saw it live on the situation in Ukraine. Standing by, we have a regular panel of MPs interrupted a moment ago. May I start with you, Peggy Nash, for a reaction to what the Foreign Affairs Minister just said. He wasn't specific about what support the Prime Minister will offer when he goes to Ukraine. He said it won't be business as usual, though. We're waiting until after this referendum in Crimea to see what our next steps might be, although it does sound as though sanctions are likely. Prime Minister Harper going to the Ukraine on March 22nd. Peggy Nash, your reaction to John Baird.
Well, Terry, New Democrats are very, very concerned about the recent developments in Ukraine and the fact that the Russian Federation is holding this referendum really at gunpoint. The results will not be legitimate. No one will see it as such. This goes obviously beyond party positions here. I think the people of Canada stand in solidarity with the people of Ukraine, and the international community, in trying to find a solution here, we have to explore absolutely every diplomatic opportunity in order to turn the temperature down here and foster real democracy in Ukraine, not this kind of phony referendum. And we think that the fact that our Prime Minister is going to Ukraine is a positive step. First of all, to show our solidarity with Ukrainians, but also to explore absolutely every opportunity to find some kind of peaceful resolution here. What Ukrainians, I'm sure, want, which people around the world want, which is a normal democratic country. And the fact that the Russian Federation has gone into Crimea. There are skirmishes in other cities like Kharkiv we saw today. I think that has the potential to destabilize the whole region. So we're very, very troubled by all this.
I don't hear you saying much to differ with what the government is saying, nor do you offer a lot of specifics on exactly what we should do in the wake of a secession or annexation. Mark Arnault, your response on that same topic.
Well, I think it's a good thing that the Prime Minister is going to Ukraine. We definitely support that. It is mostly symbolic in the sense of showing solidarity with the people of Ukraine. There are a number of measures that the government has already announced, some of them financial, others involved with taking our position with respect to the referendum and with respect to military incursion into Crimea. The temperature is going to ratchet up quite a bit after Sunday when this referendum takes place, and at this point it's extremely important for cool heads to prevail. There's no question about it. At that point, I think there's very strong potential for the beginning of a process to apply sanctions, economic sanctions, and that will be the beginning of a very long process, because I don't believe that the Russians are going to suddenly wake up a few days from now and suddenly say, oh, we're going to back away. So it's very important that everybody keep cool heads, and I think there will be a ratcheting up of sanctions, economic sanctions against Mr. Putin and Russia, and we'll see how he reacts to that.
Now, you spoke of sanctions against Mr. Putin and Russia there, but James Bezan, the government has talked about sanctions for some time. What about sanctions on individuals, sanctions on the Russian elite, on the oligarchs who support and sustain and provide the cash for Putin's regime? When are we going to see something specific like that, as opposed to what we're hearing, which is, yeah, sanctions sometime generally about Russia?
Well, as the Prime Minister announced earlier this week, or it was actually last week, and we brought in travel bans on individuals that are responsible for this invasion of Crimea.
Wait a minute, you're talking about Ukrainian individuals?
No, we put travel bans. We took economic sanctions on 18 Ukrainians last week.
Right.
But we also introduced travel bans on Russian leaders who are responsible for invasion into Crimea.
But no asset freeze.
Not asset freeze at this time, because we're talking with the European Union, and we want to make sure that we continue to move in lockstep with our allies. It was interesting to see that in a report from Forbes magazine last week that they did talk about that President Putin and the 111 billionaires that surround him as oligarchs and as kleptocrats within his government. Those are the people that I think people are evaluating right now.
So we can
what type of
expect
role
something like that. Sorry to interrupt, but we can expect something like that in coordination with allies, not now, but soon after this referendum.
As Minister Baird just said, everything's on the table. We want to first and foremost try to give diplomacy the time to work here so that we can avoid an exasperated situation that may turn into a military action.
All right.
So we're going to continue to move to isolate Russia. The announcement by the Prime Minister here is great, and again showing world leadership on engaging in Ukraine, showing that we stand with the people of Ukraine, standing up for their freedom and their aspirations for a democratic country.
Well, I hope it's going to be safe for the Prime Minister to be in Ukraine, because the tension, as you say, is very high. I'd like to call all of your attentions to the comments of Vadim Pristaiko, the Ukrainian ambassador to Canada, who was on our show in the last few days saying that he was prepared to fight for his country. Take a listen to that.
Unfortunately, we believe that if we have to fight, we will fight. I've been through military before. It was Soviet Union times. It was before Ukraine became independent. So I know how to hold the Kalashnikov, and I know how to shoot at people. I don't want to do it, but if we have to fight for our country, we will have to do it.
So these kind of grim and chilling comments. What do you make, James Bezan, of the comments like that coming from a professional diplomat?
Well, I think that I know the ambassador quite well, and he's quite passionate about the freedom and liberty and the independence of Ukraine and its territorial integrity, something that Canada completely agrees with, that those things have to be protected. And Ukrainians across the country are standing up and preparing to stand in arms against the Russian invasion. They don't have a very big military, as we know, but they have mobilized militia, and volunteers have been signing up in the thousands across the country, and have started to go into training to be there in case Russia decides to take a more aggressive stand.
Briefly, Peggy Nash, do you think it's going to come to this? Do you think that cooler heads will prevail, at least to avoid any military action in the short run?
Well, a couple of points on that. First of all, I think that we have to explore absolutely every diplomatic option, and the issue of sanctions is one that we use, I assume, in our negotiations, a threat of sanctions. You have to be able to have some way of applying pressure to try to achieve a diplomatic solution, and we need to explore every opportunity to achieve that kind of solution here. Because it's not the world of 50 years ago. The world is more economically integrated, and so I think there is greater economic pressure that can be brought to bear in that regard. In speaking with Ukrainians here in Canada, there is, I think, first of all, a real fear, a dread that there could be a more regional destabilization, that there could be greater violence. So many people have already lost their lives at great cost to the community over there. But I do know how passionately people feel about the independence of Ukraine and their passion. They have fought long and hard for human rights, a more democratic society. But I think that if it comes, people want to avoid getting to that kind of violence. I think the events in Kiev, where people lost their lives, was very bracing, very shocking to people. And I think world leaders are really trying to do everything in their power to avoid an escalation of that kind of violence. But I know how passionately people feel. I talk to folks of Ukrainian origin every day in my community, and temperatures are running high. I think Ukrainians need to know we're standing with them. But again, as others have said, we have to do everything to kind of turn the temperature down here.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut in because we have run short of time because of Mr. Baird's press conference. My apologies to Mark Arnault. I think we owe you some extra time next time you're on. I know you will be.